Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast. We are back. We are so back. No, it's not football season. Well, maybe it also is, but it really is cyclocross season. Issam, Australian National Championships, New Zealand National Championships, they took place a couple of weeks ago already, but this weekend, or today actually, we're recording this on Saturday night. First cyclocross races of the season took place in Europe and in North America, in Bensheim and in Englewood. We're not going to discuss them. We'll have another discussion. Thank you for being here again, Issam.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, cyclocross is truly and really ongoing, and it's getting colder and colder, I would say. Not in the Netherlands so far, but the feeling is getting there that cyclocross is really arriving, and I'm excited for it. It's great to have that feeling back of anticipating the weekends and really, watching the races again.
You went to Morocco this summer. Any course sites visited? Any potential venues you saw there for a cyclocross World Cup?
I didn't really focus on it, but I have to say that it's not really a country that has a lot of interest at the moment in road cycling is definitely something that lives there, and I have to say that in the last couple of years you can really see that the interest also within the audience is growing a little bit more. There are more people that are watching the Tour de France. They're following more the riders. You can now mention riders and maybe actually get a hit of someone knowing them. So it is growing there, but cyclocross never really hit, and that's also the same, to be honest, with mountain bike, despite the fact that is an Olympic sport. And now I'm kind of hinting to where we're going, but yeah, I think for a country like Morocco and Africa overall, I think that cyclocross doesn't really live there. And in terms of potential, there is plenty of potential, and I think you can definitely try something there, but it takes so much time and effort that you really need to find someone that wants to put in the time and has the knowledge to get something going.
Well, no matter the potential, like realistic potential, wherever I go, I'll be thinking about, oh, this could be a good place to put on a cross race. Look at these stairs here. Look at this field. Look at this gigantic off-camber. When I was in Istanbul, I saw a couple of interesting venues. In Mexico, also a couple of interesting venues, but yeah, probably not that realistic. Something that looks to be a bit more realistic, or maybe it becomes realistic because of this, to host the races there. During the Olympics, there was a rumor, significant rumor, serious rumor, that cyclocross will be added to the Olympic program for the 2030 Winter Games, which will be held in the French Alps. The first real traction that this got was when it was released in a Belgian talk show. I traced down the original source not to be that talk show, but to be the French newspaper Dauphiné Libéré, which sponsors the Critérium du Dauphiné, or at least used to when it was called Dauphiné Libéré. They wrote that David Lapartien, who is the president of the UCI but is already trying to become the next president of the IOC, has a role in the French Olympic Committee, etc. He is working together with Thomas Cook from the World Athletics Federation to get cross-country running and cyclocross on the Winter Olympics. It's not a done deal, let's be clear here. I will believe it when that announcement is out, but that they are lobbying and they are in advanced talks to get cyclocross on the Olympics for 2030. Belgian newspaper Het Laatste Nieuws wrote their own article about 5 days after all of this hit the news cycle for the first time. They wrote that according to their sources, there have been ongoing conversations about cyclocross at the Olympics for a while now. Of course, the case has been dragging on forever. They said that in the past year, the behind-the-scenes conversations have taken a turn in the right direction. There have been productive and constructive meetings. Most of the work that needs to be done now is add some political points and commas to the final agreement, and they are looking to present this in 2025. They don't want to waste too much time in announcing this. That's all the news that you need to know. Issam, exciting if it's true, but of course still a rumor. Let's emphasize that again. It's a rumor, but still, because of the significance of it and the season is around the corner, I think we should discuss some of the implications this could possibly have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that first, how serious can we take the rumor? It's definitely a rumor that if it wasn't if the talks were not at a level that could be taken seriously, I don't think it would have been leaked, or at least people would have known about it. What helps, obviously, is that it's going to be the 2030 Olympics are, for the biggest part, are going to be held in France in the Alps. So with that, you obviously already have a country that would probably be a little bit more supportive and knowing how to get a cyclocross race going. And of course, with Lapartien being French himself, I think that also maybe played a role in trying to push this. And it's good. We kind of were, I would say, hoping and anticipating such a moment, such an opportunity for the sport of cyclocross. And we've always said that it could, for a big part, only be a positive role that Olympics can play for a sport like cyclocross in terms of professionality, the money that can be put in, the international exposure, the interest maybe of certain riders that would choose mountain bike over cyclocross in their junior categories. And I think all these kind of things could play a role in a positive way. We have to see how it will play out, because where is it going to be held, what is the service that they are trying to pursue, and these are all things that have been talked about, but we have to see how, if we come to a conclusion in terms of how it will look, then at that point we can really have a proper overview of what we can expect and how good or bad it will be. But for now, I think with the signs that we got, it's very positive, and I hope that it can be possible. But it's going to be for a sport like cyclocross that doesn't, how do you say that? They do not like the changes that much in the calendar, and now with having such a big event coming up, most likely, that can have implications on the calendar and how riders will prepare for the event.
Well, yeah, because the Olympics are always at the end of February, so that will have an influence. But you all raise very good points. We'll come to most of them in a bit more detail throughout this now. Thanks for your initial reaction. I'm waiting for three things. First of all, I'm waiting for that announcement. I'm a bit cynical, I'm a bit skeptical. Yes, I do think there's truth to these rumors, but I will believe it once I see that announcement. Then second of all, I need to know, what is the game plan here? Is this a one-time thing? Are we adding this to the 2030 Olympics in the French Alps only? Because then ultimately not too much will change for the sport. It's like flag football becoming Olympic in LA, or it's like breaking becoming Olympic in Paris. It won't change the outlook of that sport significantly, apart from maybe in that short Olympic year or that Olympic cycle. It won't change cyclocross. Third point is the surface. You already mentioned it. What is it? Some of these political points and commas, I imagine, are, does cyclocross and cross-country running take place on snow, or is it not necessary? Personally, I think it would be best if cyclocross is on whatever the weather conditions provide that day, but I am willing to accept the downside of having it on snow, because it's not representative. I'm willing to accept that for all the good it would do for the sport. Because first of all, I think the most important thing before we come into the part like, what do our riders choose, etc., funding. Almost every country in the world is concerned in having athletics and therefore performing at the highest stage, which is the Olympics. They want to score medals because it's a showcase of your country. The number of countries that can realistically win a medal at the Winter Olympics is low, which is why you see that the IOC, to boost participant numbers, has gigantic fields for downhill skiing or alpine skiing, depending on what you call it in your country. There's people from African countries, South American countries that are really not representative of the level that the Olympics have, but they are there to boost the numbers. You see, where can we win a medal? Jamaica focuses on the bobsled. You see other countries focusing on like big air. You can practice a trick on a snowboard without having the snow if you just make a ramp. Cyclocross would be a prime sport. It would be one of the only sports that every country can participate in, and it's also, I would say, relatively cheap, because you don't necessarily need to build a big training facility for it. I think that is the main thing here, Issam. We would see more funding flow into cycling federations across the world that will then recruit riders for this. We've seen it in mountain biking, where many South and Latin American countries invest in mountain bike talent recruitment. South Africa is investing in that as well, with the goal of scoring an Olympic medal. And I think we could see something similar in cyclocross, which will ultimately help the globalization, help people have a living in the sport, have more juniors, have more U23s come through the pyramid, which I think can only help the sport gain popularity in countries outside of Belgium, which can help generate more revenue.
We shouldn't deny the fact that we will probably have a couple of dominant countries compared to, the smaller countries or countries that are not as involved as of now even. And, it's not going to change drastically over 4 years, over 5 years, or even over 10 years. But I think that there are going to be some countries that were maybe on the edge of being competitive, but just not really being able to break that Belgium-Dutch domination, or to be honest, mostly Belgium.
Or Dutch at the women's side.
Or Dutch at the women's side especially. I think that it's going to be that extra financial push, the extra attention that it also will get, I would say, from national federation and so forth. I think that it will elevate the importance of the sport, and I think it will just be more on the upper side of the agenda, I would say, because then a federation realizes that a medal is on the line. If there's maybe one or two riders that could get to a top 5 or a top 3, then it becomes already more attractive to put more money into it. If you have some talents from, early on, you can maybe support them a little bit more. I think that it's just going to be a mentality switch, because I think that for the Worlds, of course, the federations want to do well at a World Championship, but it's not that important for the federations, because they feel that road cycling and mountain bike is more important, and they can make a case for that. And I think with making cyclocross Olympic, it could change that, and it could help drastically. And as you said, I think also an important point is that certain countries that are not that good in cyclocross whatsoever, they could still try to push their numbers, as you say, and maybe try to go for an entry. I wouldn't be surprised if a country like Morocco would be like, okay, well, we have a road cyclist, he did some gravel, let's try and push for this. So I think that you will maybe push certain countries that normally wouldn't be having any interest in cyclocross to go and try it out and try to get riders ready for such an event. And I think that is, in my opinion, should be a positive, should be celebrated, and hopefully we can see some of that in the future.
Yeah, you are right. We will see riders from other countries come in, and you are also right when you say that in the first few years there will not be a shift right away. I think we need to differentiate between 3 type of categories. First, you have the countries that will be the easiest to grow. So that means countries like France, Italy, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Spain. These countries have an existing infrastructure, and extra funding will do a lot for them to keep their youth riders in the sport. Then secondly, you have countries that have some sort of program but haven't really fine-tuned it, have other difficulties. I think Australia could be a prime example here. They are a country that's very concerned with winning medals at the Olympics. They are overperformers at the Summer Olympics. They don't have great opportunities for Winter Olympics, so they focus on sports which they don't need to have the geographical circumstances for. They don't focus on alpine skiing or on speed skating. They focus on things like freestyle skiing, which they can easily practice indoors on short tracks, or things like big air, where it's just one jump which you can practice. They have some cyclocross infrastructure, but it will be an uphill battle for them. But for them, cyclocross provides a unique opportunity to not even need to invest in a big training facility, to just fine-tune the infrastructure you have. It will take years for them, but that could be an example. And then thirdly, you have countries that have pretty much nothing at the moment, but who might want to win a medal in the Olympics. And I'm thinking about countries like China or South Africa, or I don't know, maybe a country like Brazil. These countries want to win medals. They don't really have any opportunities at the moment. Well, of course, China does, but South Africa and Brazil, they don't really have any opportunities at the moment, and cyclocross could provide one of them. So I think in these tiers you'll see sustainable, slow but steady growth. And furthermore, you'll see a lot less incentive for riders to shift away from cross. There will be more money. Manufacturers and therefore teams will be more interested because the Olympics gives you 4-year bragging rights. There will be incentives to keep Omen Sparfel or Leo Bichot in cross for the French. Also, from their perspective, they will want an Olympic gold medal. And because for bike sponsors or manufacturers of any part, they can brag for 4 years, which is why Pinarello went so big on Prevost and Pidcock for the Olympics, they can brag for 4 years. And that's great advertisement, and that will cause another level, another layer of growth.
Yeah, I definitely feel that could become the case, and I think that's the positives are definitely going to be there. How positive the effects will be is going to be the question, but I feel that this could be the push towards so many things that should already have been changed, and maybe now, because of how the Olympics will work and how the calendar has to be moved, could maybe it could get some more money into it. It could get some more money into the classifications, and that could maybe change up the calendars. For example, let's just assume now that the World Cup is going to have an immense amount of money. A rider will then definitely consider riding only the World Cups, which will then obviously make the changes a little bit, the choices for the riders a little bit easier, and then it could be a positive effect for the amount of races that we have currently on the calendar. And then I think with that you could also get more international races, because if a certain country is more interested in the sport, then you could also see that in the calendars. You could also see that in the World Cup races. You could probably see that switch in a way into going more abroad and accepting that is the new way the sport is going. Because it sometimes, if you look at the sport, and especially in the somewhat busier months, December for sure, it feels almost like the sport is hijacked by Belgium, and you feel that there is no international relevance whatsoever. It's basically we have a couple of races in Belgium, and I understand it's easier for the riders to be in one place, but we should maybe ask ourselves, despite the fact that it is sometimes fun to see cyclocross every day or almost every day in December, and especially that last month around the Christmas period, you should ask yourself, is that right for the sport? Is it right for the riders? Is it healthy? And I think that if you ask those questions, you will probably end up saying that it's not really the most healthiest way for the sport, and the focus is too much on that 2 weeks that we have basically of racing. So it could be a push towards great things, but we have to wait and see. And the effects, we might be able to see those effects in the 4 years already, but we could also see that in the next Olympic cycle after this one. And that is also the question: is this going to be a one-off, as you said about what we had with breakdance in Paris, or is this going to be something that we will see every Olympics from now on? And that it's going to be decisive, and you just have to hope for the best. If that event goes through, that the event is going to be an exciting one, because I feel that if it becomes an exciting one and it goes trending and it reaches a new audience, I think you then can make a case for yourself. You can make a case for the sport to be a regular event for the Winter Olympics, and I think that is what we should aim for. And when that happens, I think a lot of things could be solved. And as I said, I think that a lot of scenarios will be way different than from what they were right now, but it will take some time.
Normally those sports are already announced before the next Olympics, so it would really need to be a push through the IOC or through the backing federations of athletics and cycling to assure that it's also there in 2034, because we're going to Salt Lake City, and my expectations of the American Olympic Committee thinking, oh, this cyclocross thing needs to be on, are quite low, or maybe even non-existent. But yeah, that's what I said earlier. I will need to see that for it to have a structural effect. Back to the calendar point you make, I do think you'll see more races, and I think the most important change you will see is, you make good points, it's kind of focused around that Christmas period in Belgium. More and more races want to be there because they want Van der Poel and Van Aert. I think cyclocross would break away from being dependent on a few athletes because it's more sustainable. But secondly, I think the calendar would evolve for cyclocross to be not a year-round sport, but just to be a sport in its own. Mountain biking does whatever they want. Okay, they avoid the Tour de France, but apart from that, they do what they want. Cyclocross, I feel like, would be getting a similar treatment. They're going to have a half-year thing with longer World Cup. It's going to go back, it's going to go bigger, and the cross season will also continue post-January. The February part will be incorporated into the season. It might even go on into the first 2 weeks of March, just because they can. You can cross then, and they can do biathlon then, and they can do cross-country skiing then. And that's another thing I think will be interesting to see, is can cyclocross work together with these venues? Because if you're looking for a cyclocross venue in a foreign country, foreign to Dutch and Belgians, then you have a good opportunity to do that at an existing venue for cross-country skiing or biathlon. There are some hills, there are stands, there's great opportunities, great facilities. Those could be interesting ways to set up a race in Italy or in Eastern Europe, like in Slovenia or in Slovakia, or in another race in the Czech Republic, without taking on huge financial risks. That could be something interesting to consider as well. I think those are kind of the main points to me that it would influence. It would get more riders, more money, more internationalization, more recognition. I feel like those are probably the biggest things there are, Issam. That's probably it to me, unless you have any other points.
No, I think you summarized it well, and we went over most of the obvious points. Probably we might have forgotten to talk about a thing or two, but overall I think that we went over it all quite well. And it's listeners shouldn't really understand us wrongly in the sense that we are saying that the Olympics are going to change everything and it's going to be our golden ticket towards the greater good. I don't there is more behind it than only that, but I feel that it could accelerate it, because we have seen already within the sport of cyclocross that we are going towards somewhat the right direction, but we also feel that it's still the changes are not really made to an extent that we could say that it's going fully in the right direction. It's stalling at certain points. We've seen with the calendars, we've seen with the teams and the professional way of how they look at the sport. I think that there are definitely a couple of things that are just not there yet. And even within Olympics are not going to be just miraculously appear. But I just think that the way federations will look at the sport, and the way the riders will look at the sport, and the way the youth will look at the sport, and the viewership overall, I think that those things could be a massive change for cyclocross. And we have to wait and see, as we have said a couple of times already. And I'm excited for it. I would really love to see it, and hopefully it will be happening. And from there on, then we can speculate on how it will take place, where it will take place, and the future of cyclocross. But for now, I think we covered it well.
Yeah, I do think that it would have a significant lasting change if it were to become a permanent Olympic sport. I do think it would, on the long term, completely revolutionize cyclocross into a way that we now probably can't even imagine. But I already said it, I'm not pretending like that's around the corner. I am skeptical that this is going to be a thing. I think nothing would be more heartbreaking to me than seeing the announcement is going to be there, but it's going to be in 2030 only, because then it will feel like, oh, we were so close, and then everything just falls away. Everything that's gone into it, I've heard 20 years plus this story has been going around. They lost the momentum to mountain bike, and then it would just slip away. That would probably be the worst thing I could read next year. I'm expecting there's two possibilities for this to be announced, either at the World Championships in Lièvin, because that's in France, or else it will be after the IOC Congress, which is going to be held in the summer. I recall from the top of my head in India, but I'm not entirely sure about that. Good. Cyclocross Olympic discussion out of the way. Very briefly, mountain bike World Championships in Andorra. We had some good results for cyclocross riders there, Issam. Puk Pieterse taking the world title, long overdue. Rest is not in her book. After Tour de France Femmes, she did that. Then she'll take on the Road World Championships. Probably a bit too much, but I'm not going to have that discussion again. It was very nice to see everything come together for her in that race. At the same time, Olympic year, World Championships is always a difficult combination. It's always a month after the Olympics, and it's not the biggest goal of the season. People are worn down, burnt out, not really in it mentally after the Olympics or whatever. Doesn't matter. Rainbow jersey taken home by Puk Pieterse. She deserved it. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it was cool to see, and it, with the bad luck that occurred to her in the Olympics, it's I would say definitely something that should have been coming her way, and it's gonna be interesting now how she will proceed in the next coming years. Will be the same in terms of preparation, because now obviously it was a special year with the Olympics. Will we see even more road? Will we see more focus on mountain bike? How will cyclocross endure under the ambitions that she has at the moment? It's gonna be interesting, and as you said, that's a discussion for another time in terms of the amount of races that she's doing and is going to be doing. But overall, yeah, I think it's pretty badass that she was able to bring the win at the Worlds, and it's I think that she really put a stamp on this season in terms of my mountain bike. Has been one of the best, and to be honest, if you would have told me that 2 years ago that she would be world champion mountain bike, I would have been a bit skeptical about it, but she has been able to pull it off, and is one of the very best, if not with the goodbye of Prevot, maybe the very best. So it's great to see, and I think we are going to enjoy her performances and seeing her at the front of the mountain bike scene for many years to come, hopefully.
It's been quite a steep development curve for Puk Pieterse, and it was quite good to see that everything came together there. She rode a good race. I don't think she was at the very best of her abilities, but she certainly was good enough to be in contention. In the men's race, we saw Tom Pidcock race. He too was definitely not at the best of his abilities. He was suffering. He ended third, which I think is a respectable result. Again, like the Olympics, they really influence this. Like the Olympics, a big goal, everybody works to it, and then like you see some riders who didn't do Olympics were able to build towards this race better. For instance, Kate Courtney delivered one of the best races of the season for her on a personal level. It's just very, very hard in an Olympic year to really draw the conclusions from this, but at the same time, a medal is a medal. In the junior women's category, we saw Victoria Gladanova take the win. Of course, they're none of the business with the European or the Olympics, I'm sorry. She took the win there, and today it was announced that she was signed by the Visma women's team together with Imogen Wolf. I really think this was a steal for the Visma team. Kat Ferguson was previously signed to Movistar, as reported last year. Celia Géry has been signed to FDG. But yeah, this was really a steal for Visma. I would have expected more riders to be or more teams to be all over these two riders, because they were very, very good in pretty much every discipline they do, and especially Gladanova, I think, has quite a lot of potential. Only thing that was interesting, we know Visma is not really profound on the multidisciplinary approach, but in the announcement, all they could talk about was the multidisciplinary approach will improve in cyclocross. So maybe the women's management has a different vision than the men's management.
Yeah, I hope so, to be honest, because they, the riders that they have signed in the likes of Wolf and Gladanova definitely deserve that. I'm twisted about it because I feel that they probably see potential on the road and they want to see if there's a possibility to push towards that. I have seen how they were able to, not be able to get the potential out of Van Empel this season on the road, and that makes me a bit skeptical on how good Visma really is for these young talented riders. I don't know if that is going to be the right choice, but they have the name, they have obviously the support, the financial support as well. It gives a rest to the mind in a way that that you're at a good place in to a certain degree. And yeah, we have to wait and see, because I mean, I don't know about you, but I have yet to receive the proof that Visma prioritizes the off-road over the road season. So we have to wait and see how they will go on, but I hope that it will be working out for her, and especially for Gladanova, it's great to see that she has been picked up by a serious team and that she's going to have great support, hopefully.
Yeah, I will again see it when I believe it. The only thing I did see this winter was that Sophie van Berstvoort was racing a number of races, Benidorm, Dutch Nationals, Gullegem, and I think I saw her in Kokzijde. She might have been in another race as well. I don't really recall that from the top of my head. But yeah, maybe they do take things a bit differently there with their women's team. I definitely think we will see them in the cross this year. I don't know for the future, but ultimately in both riders, I see more of a road rider than a cyclocross rider. I feel in Visma, the situation is really, if you're as good as Vos or Van Empel or Van Aert, you can kind of just smash on the table, put your fist down. Hey, my name is Van Empel, I am world champion. You can very politely get out of the room if you don't want me to do cyclocross. I want to do cyclocross. I want to prioritize cyclocross. And then the team will have to say yes, and then eventually shuffle in something in the sense that, oh, okay, well, then this is the best way to do it. So I don't know if Gladanova or Wolf will be in such a situation. But what is for sure is that they are talented. And yes, I hope they stay in cyclocross. But I'm also excited to see them be in a quite good road team. Because especially Gladanova and, well, also Wolf. Wolf has been very good on the road as well. These two riders, they will do good things on the road as well. So it's good to see that potential at least be exploited by a team. And my voice is going away because I already have a bit of a cold. And it's only September.
Oh boy.
It looks like I'm going a bit out of sync with previous years, Issam, because last year I dodged it, but the 2 years before, in the Christmas period, I was hit by a cold, which, of course, is the worst time because I need to do many podcasts, but I think this is also a sign to wrap up this episode almost 40 minutes in, keeping it a bit on the short side when we edit it down to some 35 minutes. Issam, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We'll be back with weekly podcasts now. This year, unfortunately, no coverage from the USCX series. We will still be recording weekly shows on Monday, which will then be released on Monday or Tuesday. We're going to discuss the races that have been going on. Then we'll come to the results in Englewood that is being going on when we're recording. We'll talk about the results from Bensheim. Next week on Sunday, I'm going to be with my boots in probably some mud looking at the weather predictions. I'll be going to the Kleeberg Cross in Mechelen. first Dutch race of the season. We'll bring you all of that, start previewing the season, talking about some Belgian riders under pressure to perform. So yeah, exciting times. Thanks everyone for listening, and see you guys next week. Goodbye.